Yo, what's good people? Welcome to episode 6 of Raven 101. Today we're going to be talking about tips for leveling up. So this will relate to anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, intermediate or advanced level player. This video will help you kind of identify issues that are preventing you from leveling up. Often Raven players feel like they've plateaued, and I'm going to explain my method of overcoming plateaus and improving as a player. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Liking will help with the algorithm, commenting will help with the algorithm, just comment an emoji and you'll get a W from me. And also subscribing will help me know that you actually enjoy the content. Let's get into it. So a lot of people ask me, this is a really common question for me, is how do I actually beat scrubs? How do I beat lower level players? Now, I will say this, Raven is a character that he's only as complicated as you make the character. So I always say you can't bluff a bad poker player, which essentially means if you're trying to outsmart your opponent that doesn't understand why you're doing certain things, doesn't understand the matchup, doesn't understand the mind games behind certain things, more often than not, it's not going to work on those specific opponents. You need to simplify your game plan. Now, this goes for any rank. It doesn't matter if you're, orange rank. It doesn't matter if you're a green rank, if you're a, if you're a god rank Raven. This applies to all players. Not everyone's going to know the matchup. Some players are going to know the matchup. So it depends on your opponent. And it depends on the kind of players you're fighting as well. A good one for me would be the addition of his kind of mental stack moves. So down forward 1 straight away is a mental stack move. Let me just put the command history on. Down forward 1 is a really good checking tool, and it's not a homing move, but it acts as a homing move. So it's really difficult to step. I think Lily's the only character that can step it reliably, and it has to be range 0. She has to step it cleanly left at range 0. So even if she's this far away, she can't step it, so pretty much unsteppable. Down forward 1 is probably the single move that has done the most work for me in ranked. It's honestly a crazy move, because if you can't step Raven becomes really oppressive. You have to be able to step Raven, otherwise it becomes super oppressive. So down forward 1 in that respect is really good, and it has follow-up. So again, this move is a real lockdown move. Now, I'm not going to go over what moves to use in neutral because I've already covered a video on that. This video is to understand where you're going wrong. I always say, if something's not working, do something different. And that is the one piece of advice you need to go away from this video and really make a conscious effort to improve upon, or really just pay attention to look at replays, look at better Raven players, but particularly look at replays, because it's all well and good looking at good Raven players, but if the stuff they're doing does not apply to your skill level, or no disrespect, but what they're doing probably doesn't apply to your skill level. If you're watching a high level Raven that's way high level than you, there's only so many things you can take. What I would do is look at your replays and look at what is working and what isn't working. So what isn't working, figure out why it's not working. If down back 2-1 isn't working for you, do something different. If down back 2-1 keeps getting duck launched, do down back 2 by itself. Do down back 2 and turn around. There is one piece of advice that I will give you as well. Lows are really powerful, because lows are probably the best form of conditioning for opening players up, especially because Raven has really strong lows now. I mean, he always had strong lows, but this new sweep and the full crouch low, full crouch down forward 3 are really good for conditioning. So a lot of the times when I'm doing coaching, I see a lot of players, they don't duck. So it's kind of a case where you need to force them to duck with lows. When you force them to duck, that opens up a whole plethora of mids that Raven has to do damage to the opponent. So it's like, if your mids are not working, if your while standing 2s aren't working, if your, down for 1s aren't working, if your 3-3s are not hitting their blocking, it's time to go for lows, time to go low, time to do sweeps, time to just mix up the offense pattern, because you're clearly being predictable with the mids if they're not working, right? So it's like, it's time to do the down 4s, time to do the full crouch down forward 3s, time to go for the big sweeps. Force them to duck, because that's going to open them up for those mids. And then, Raven's mids are really strong. So once you can open up the mids, you can enforce back turn mixes a lot easier, because, his easiest transition is back to down back 2. Now, if down back 2 is not working, immediately that transition is crossed off the list. You can't use that anymore. You need to be able to use down back 2. You need to be able to use down forward 1. The only way you're going to do that, if they keep blocking it, is go for lows, mix them up with lows, use soul zone low, use just different stuff. You have to kind of mix up the offense, if that makes sense. And the only way you can do that, to figure it out at whatever skill level you're at is going into your replays and looking at what's working and what isn't working. So replays is a really, really cool system to identify which elements of your game is not working and which elements of your game is successful ultimately. So I do advise to watch high level players, but that's only going to take you so far. I feel like to kind of get over your own plateau in terms of your skill level or what's not working, or kind of rank plateau, I guess, because sometimes rank is not always an indication of skill. So you might be higher level than the people you're fighting, but the rank doesn't really reflect that. So it's like, how do I get past that rank in order to play the way I want to? The way to do that is not to watch high level Ravens, because they're fighting players that are high level players than you're fighting. So sometimes watching high level players isn't the best advice. Sometimes it's looking at your own replays and looking at what's working and what isn't working. So that's a really, really good piece of advice, and I use that myself as well. That's one thing I will say. So the main point to take away from this video is kind of like, identify, are your mids hitting? Are your mids working? Is your opponent sidestepping you a lot? Figure out those things, and if the answer is yes, then keep doing it. If your answer is no, then you need to change it up. So if your opponent's sidestepping you a lot, change it up. If your opponent isn't sidestepping you a lot, keep doing it. If your mids are hitting, keep doing it. If your mids are getting blocked and you can't enforce mix-ups, if you can't enforce your mid game, go low. Do low attacks. Go for full crouch sweep. Use his throw game. Like, he has so many different ways to open up opponents, but it's just, I think a lot of players aren't actually aware of where the holes in their gameplay are. So yeah, replays are really, really good. But the main thing, it sounds really simple and it will be difficult to put into practice. But figure out what's working, figure out what isn't working. Once you identify that, you can... Raven has so many... Look at how many moves Raven has. All techniques. Let's go down to the bottom. 124 moves. So if you're using 10 moves and they're not working, he has another 140 moves to use. So again, you know, Raven is a really complex character, but he's only as complex as you make him. And you can stick to really, really simple gameplay, down for 1 jab game, G clef game, you know, those simple lows, down back 4, down 3, down 4, and then full crouch lows. You can play him very, very simple, very lame. It just depends on who you're fighting, you know, what rank the opponents are, and where you think you can improve as a player. So that is a shortish video, but I wanted to just give you guys some advice on how to overcome that rank plateau, because I feel like there's a skill level plateau and there's also a rank plateau. So if you want to rank up, improving your skill level might not necessarily be necessary just yet. Now, if you want to improve as a player, that's where the kind of getting games with better players and watching better players, seeing what they're doing to open up high level opponents would come into play. But in terms of the leveling up, that's where you need to start. You need to start with yourself, and you need to start with kind of your opponents as well, and what's working and what isn't working. Now, once you improve your kind of rank and then you start fighting those high level players, this same advice will still apply, but then it's like, what are higher level players doing to deal with these high level players? Now people start to understand the Raven matchup. How do you maneuver around it? And that's where watching, you know, the top Ravens will really, really help you. So I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, please feel free to, you know, put in the comments. I know I haven't really been touching Raven in terms of, you know, moving him around. This is just a really solid piece of advice video, and it's I think it will be a gem for a lot of players. So definitely let me know how you guys are finding Raven, how you're finding ranked, how you're finding the opponents are dealing with Raven, because obviously Raven has a lot of new stuff. So you might find that they're not dealing with the clones properly, they're not dealing with Raven's heat, they're not dealing with certain things. So definitely let me know. And also, if you can identify that, that's good, because you can then say, okay, my opponents can't deal with this, I need to take that forward. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.